So what does it say about our society at large that high school kids waving flags in support of cops and firefighters are getting suspended from school for being political? If I remember correctly, it wasn't George Floyd or Jacob Blake running into the Twin Towers on 9/11. We said we would never forget that day, and yet here we are, less than 20 years later, spitting in the faces of these first responders who put their lives on the line every day. What does that say about where we're going?
Well, I mean, it's profoundly saddening to me. Look, my hat is off to these kids. They showed a kind of courage that is rare, increasingly, depressingly rare, I think. And this is how you know that the left is trying to stage a revolution right now. They're not just making a political argument. They're not arguing for certain changes and engaging in a good faith debate. They're trying to upend the American regime. And the way that you can tell they're doing that is because they're trying to change what is and isn't political, what does and doesn't count as political. When the superintendent of this school was asked for comment about why this shouldn't be allowed, why you shouldn't at a high school football game be able to hold a flag in support of the police on September 11th. Why is that not allowed? Well, because some families might not agree with that politically. We know exactly where that's coming from. That's coming from BLM and Antifa and the Democrat Party that's egging them on, all of these folks are rioting in the streets, chanting to defund the police, to destroy our way of life. Look, the reason that they want the police gone is because the police are the thin blue line between our way of life and law and order and chaos and the Marxist revolution that these folks are trying to create. Look, I live out in Los Angeles, right? And here just not several days ago, two cops were shot. Two deputies were shot point blank in their car. One of them, Claudia Apolinar, an absolute hero, a mother, a former librarian, a rookie cop, shot multiple times, still managed to get her partner out of harm's way and to radio for help. As they were in the hospital, folks were outside the door chanting that they wanted them to die. That's what we're looking at here, right? And the way that they're trying to make us not realize that that's what's going on is by saying, oh, it's political. It's a political question. It's not a political question. It's a revolution. Because, of course, one wonders how these folks at this high school would feel about people kneeling for the flag, about Colin Kaepernick, as you alluded to, right? Just disrespecting the national anthem. We know how they would feel. That's not political. That's allowed, right? But if you can exclude something so far out of the Overton window that even to commemorate our first responders and our police officers and the brave men and women who died and in fact, help people survive on 9/11, if you can make supporting them into a political matter, then you're well on your way to upending the American regime. The only remedy to it is courage, and so I commend these kids for standing up.
There's something you said a moment ago that I want to touch on. You said revolution. And so the way President put it recently, he says that our civilization itself is at stake in this election. I want to know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no, the other word that comes to my mind again and again these days is insurrection. This is not, again, it's not a matter of saying, we have a certain set of issues that we want to address within this great American country. That's the kind of thing that's happened for the entire history of our nation. People have stood up and said, we want to really bring a certain issue to the fore. That's not what's happening here. The entire American system is under attack. And the reason it's under attack, and people need to understand this, is because the philosophy behind BLM is not the philosophy in the name, right? The philosophy in the name sounds great. Black Lives Matter. Of course, Black Lives Matter. All lives matter, right? But that's what you can't say. And why can't you say all lives matter? Because really what BLM is out for is a complete upending of capitalism and democracy and the American way of life. They're doing it with this philosophy of resentment that says that if you go back into the past and dredge up old resentments, then you can undo the sins of the past. You can undo the fact, you can somehow make up for the fact that we had this terrible abomination of slavery in this country. It doesn't happen. You can't outroot it. And so what you end up doing instead is uprooting America, which is really what they want.
Yeah, and I know you're a big history guy as well, so I want to get your take on this. So we know from history that great nations fall, great empires, great civilizations, they fall. It's true. Sometimes we feel like, you can keep punching America because it's almost like it'll always be there. And the thing is, history tells us No, because, for example, I believe the Greek Xenophon, I believe it was, he came across the ruins of Nineveh, and no one even knew that it was Assyrian. They were like, is this the Medes? Or no one remembered what this great civilization was. We see in ancient Rome, it was sacked so many times that at one point its population dwindled to a few thousand, and they themselves were living in the ruins of this, great city, and they didn't really know how to use the infrastructure that was there. So I was wondering, wanted to get your opinion on this really quick before I let you go. So, if left-wing policies are implemented within a few decades or even a few centuries, could they destroy America to where our World War II generation is our high mark, and from here we just keep going down?
Well, I pray to God that that will not happen, but I think that the threat you raise is very real. Here's the thing, right? For years now, during the Trump presidency, the left has been shouting about, oh, history teaches, that this is a resurgence of fascism. History teaches that when demagogues come to the fore, as if there were some backing and some parallel in history, some ridiculous parallel with, Weimar Germany or what have you. But look, for my sins, I actually study history. And here's something that history does teach. It teaches that republics do not survive elite class conspiracy. That's what we're going through. Aristotle in Book 5 of the Republic is very clear, of his Politics is very clear about this, that if you have a republican form of government, that is one that's meant to balance the competing interests in a diverse society, the one thing that is poisonous to it is when the people with all the power and all the money gather together and they try to divide you. That is what's going on right now. And yeah, we think it can't happen here. We think it can't work in America because we think we're, just set up forever. It's not the case. What we have is very, very precious and very fragile. We're a young republic. Even still, we can reclaim it, but we have to work at it. We have to fight for it.